All right, so today we're going to introduce cups, the idea of making cups. And cups are basically a cylinder that we make into a form. So you can look here, this is like a super basic cup that I made, right? And you can see that it's a cylinder. Cylinders are like the default thing for making a good cup. That we kind of all start with a cylinder, then we shape it a little bit, or sometimes like this one, we just leave it as a cylinder. And cylinders do really good because the cylinder, we put stuff in, we drink out of it. So your homework for this weekend, we'll start with that, is to look in your cupboards, look at all the different kinds of cups that you have in there, and think about why you have certain ones that are more favorite than others. Like, so you're probably thinking, John, how do I know which ones are my favorites? You know which ones are your favorites because those are the ones you use all the time. Right? They're always dirty, they're always in the dishwasher, and then you put them back there in the front of the cupboard because then you grab them first again. And then think about, what are they used for? Do you drink tea a lot? And what's a good teacup? Do you drink coffee a lot? What makes that different? Do you drink juice or water or whatever your drink is, right? Different cups are good for different things, right? Also think about volume and size of the cup, right? Because certain people want a lot, right? I drink a lot of water, so I want a giant water cup, right? And it's mainly if I'm kind of lazy, so I just want a bigger cup so I don't have to run back and forth and fill it up all the time. Or it could be the same thing for coffee, right? Maybe you like a big coffee cup because where you're sitting or studying or whatever is on the other side of the house. So when you make coffee, you just want to do one big pour, like take half the coffee pot with you, and then you go and then you work, and then you're just drinking that for like half an hour, right? Just drinking it away. Or maybe you're the kind of person that likes really hot coffee, so then that means you're always going back to the coffee pot and refilling, right? So a smaller cup would work. Or maybe that you don't want to drink that much fluid, so a smaller cup would work, because it doesn't work if you have this giant cup and then people just don't feel happy if they only fill it like halfway. It just doesn't feel right. Right? So then you just have a smaller cup. So for part of this assignment is for you to think about what size of cup that you like to use and what shape and what you're drinking out of it. Look at home and what those favorite cups are, right, that you're using, and then we can think about trying to make those shapes here, right, as your assignment. So there's no restriction on shape, but I want you to think about you and what you would use it for, or you could think about other people, right? Especially if you're thinking about giving them as gifts, like they like big coffee cups or they like small coffee cups. And there are other things that we can talk about here. So, and that's what we're going to talk about with actual examples. So this is a cylindrical coffee cup. It's not really a coffee cup or whatever. It's just a cup, right? It's basically a thrown cylinder. And this is like the default size. This does not have a handle. You see all the way around, no handle. So that means that when I hold it, I have to be able to hold it like this, my hand around it. Now, there becomes a size limitation, right? Because my hands aren't that giant and my fingers aren't that long, so that in general, probably some of you have actually bigger hands than me, that maybe you would feel okay with a slightly bigger cup. For me though, this diameter here and the way my hand goes around, right, it's a little bit big, so it's a little bit uncomfortable. What do I mean? That I really kind of have to grip at it a little bit and add more force to it than I would like, because it almost wants to slip out of my hand a little bit. That makes sense? So for me, if I were going to make this cup again, I would love it if it had a handle so that it'd be easier for me to just kind of hang on to. Right? Because it's diameter wise, it's tough, right? So, or I could have just made it smaller and it would have been a great cup for me just to drink stuff out of. So let's look at a cup that kind of solves that problem. I have a bunch over here. So there's this guy here, right? So this cup in general tapers inward, right, as it goes down. So it's wider at the top, tapering down at the bottom. One of the benefits of these is that when I hold it, I can be more relaxed. Right? Because in order for me to drop it, I actually have to open my hand up a little bit further as it slides down. So I can actually be really relaxed when I'm holding this, as long as it isn't massive in diameter where I can't hold on to it, right? Where this guy, since it's a straight cylinder, right? If I even let go a little bit, it's instantly gonna slide, right? Where this guy, if I let go a little bit, it'll just slide down a little bit more, and it's kind of self-tightening. You also notice that it has these like waver marks, which are really nice because it's like action grip, and then your fingers kind of ride in those marks, right? Like that. And that really offers a really good handful of grip action, right? And so it's really comfortable to hold this type of cup. Now, this type of cup then doesn't necessarily need a handle because it's designed to be like this. So this would be good for non-hot drinks like juice or water or something, right? Woohoo, good. We also have a couple variations on that theme, right? So this cup kind of constricts, and then expands outward, right? And same with this cup. These are what we would call hourglass shaped kind of cups, I call them, right? So what does that mean, right? They have the benefit of this, right? They tapering design, so they're easy to hold on to. You can get a pretty wide diameter and still have like this area, right, where you can hold on, right, still, and not be having to grip, right? And same thing with this one, right? There's an hourglass shape, and then it offers a really great opportunity just to hold on, right? Your fingers wrap around. This cup is a little bit awkward because it's so steep coming in and out that my thumb, it's just a little bit tight, the space, because when I hold on to it, all the fingers want to scrunch down because this slope is kind of forcing them all in. Where this cup here has a nice area, and then that extra space, your finger can kind of ride down right there. Pinky's really nice. This is a really nice cup. So this cup wouldn't necessarily need a handle, but it does, and the handle does really good. We'll talk more about handles next class. The drawback to this sort of cup, here's another hourglass type cup, right? Very nice. We'll make one of these today, right? Another one that I can hold on to. So, right, diameter is big. So, but for the same amount of clay, I get less volume inside, right? Because I had to constrict it here. So the volume goes down. Like if this were a straight cylinder, right, it would hold more volume of whatever drink it is. So for that convenience, right, of being able to have this nice gripping area, that we lose some volume. Do you guys see that? This would be a little bit of the opposite, right, of some of those other cups, right? This cup is tapering inward. You see that? So it's constricting as it goes up. So the benefit of this cup is, well, is that it's less stuff wants to spill out, right? So a lot of you have probably seen the cups that are like the driving cups, right? They go in very steeply, and then they have like a little narrow opening at the top, right? It's because the material, if you're walking or you're like a vigorous walker, like I walk pretty, like lots of arm swinging kind of animated. So when I'm walking around, I'm spilling coffee all over the place. So I'm running around later with a towel cleaning up all the places around my house where I spill coffee. This would be a good cup for me, right? Because it's less prone to spillage because this narrow opening, right? Less stuff wants to fall out. The problem is, the drawback is, well, one, there's a volume issue, right? It's a little bit less volume because it's constricted. Two, because it is harder for it to splash out, right? As you tip it, less coffee comes out. And then as I tip it, I really got to tip it a little bit farther, and I got to crank my head back far, almost like turn it upside down to get all the coffee out, right? So where a cup like this, right, where it's wider, I don't have to tip it as far for all the coffee, so more convenient as far as getting out. But that means it's more prone to splashing out, right? Let's look at one. This is another one that's more narrow at the bottom than at the top. So this would have been fine without a handle, right? This form, easy to hold on to, small size handle, right? And then there are just other shapes, like this is a basic nice looking coffee cup. This is a little bit like the shape that one of the shapes we're gonna make today kind of has a belly to it and kind of has a vase-like shape, so it has a vase-like form. So this one I cut in half so you could see the thicknesses and stuff. So the one thing that we will always look at, because remember we said that I was talking that it's always going to start off as a cylinder when we make cups. So I brought my little ruler out, and you can see this one's pretty self-apparent, straight up and down, right? But let's look at this guy here, right? It's definitely tapering as we go down. But if I bring my ruler over and hold it up against there, you can see there's only like less than a finger's width gap here, right? Between the narrow part and the wide part. right? But we wouldn't say that it's straight up and down, but it's only a little bit of variance there. Let's look at this guy here, right? This one definitely constricts in a lot, right? You can definitely see hourglass shape. But when we bring that over, right, there's barely a finger, right? I can't even get my finger through there. You see that? So it's not even the width of my finger. And so that little bit of change in the form means a lot, right? That as we diverge from the vertical, the cup becomes like the usefulness of the cup starts to get a little strange. Like this one, right? Even this one that's tapered in a lot here, there isn't that much space, right, between here and here, right? So the difference in change of the way the form is from the vertical means a lot. You don't have to do a lot of change in order to change the form. That makes sense? So this guy here constricts in a lot down here, but then this part here is pretty tight. So you can stay pretty close to the vertical and play with the form of the shape, and you get all this expressiveness. If you want a bigger cup versus a smaller cup, I thought I had one, but I don't have one. So that it just means that you just start with less clay. Throw a few, and then you'll see if your cup is too big that you make on the wheel, then just start with less clay. If you need a bigger cup, when you throw, start with smaller. If you need a bigger cup, start with more clay. And if you want a smaller cup, start with less clay. So that was our basic idea. So in the while you're throwing today, play with form a little bit, okay? And I'll do a little bit of forming during the demonstration. Trying to get